I did go to a Browns game, and the Browns won, which Aaron Hitchens told me was like seeing a unicorn. I got the range, pin dropped, and I was like, meh. He stopped, put it where I wanted it to exit,
laced him.
and just smoked him.
Laced
Drove
him
it through
And
his entire body.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a shot, man.
Yeah.
Pass through
Hell
on the entire body.
that Valkyrie arrow, I don't even have to it's like a laser bolt. I used to be like, okay, hold it together. There's a deer here. Stay calm. I realized that was really negative, actually, self-talk. There's actually expresses some level of doubt. When it comes out, I'm like, hell yeah, he's here.
I'm killing
Now you're dead.
Go time.
It's me, it's you. Come on, baby. Just come one more step.
Yeah. Now?
Can it?
What?
I do want to hear your Brittany.
I don't know,
Hit
Brittany.
me, baby, one more.
Hit me, baby, one more time.
Oh gosh, that's bad. That's so bad. You can't carry a tune in a bucket, can you?
No.
Is this being recorded?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Gosh.
We have begun. Is this no?
That's mine. Mine's Montana. Yours is Utah.
Yeah, I had both, but
Well, I brought
I
Montana.
generously gave one away. I figure I know where to get another one.
Yeah.
Those are cool.
They're really cool.
Very handy this week. In freezing cold Ohio. When I think Ohio, I don't think ice and snow and misery. I think Kansas like that, but I don't think Ohio.
You must not get over here too much.
No. In fact, I've never been to Ohio before.
This is your first time.
Yeah.
What?
This is the first time.
There's
I've been to PA.
there's worse winters here than in Montana.
Really?
Oh yeah, especially like the western half of Montana.
I knew that.
It's true though.
Yeah, folks, we are coming at you from Ohio. Ohio. And I did go to a Browns game while I was here.
And
We're whitetail hunting, by the way. Whitetail hunting in Ohio.
Yeah.
And the Browns won,
Yeah.
which Aaron Hitchens told me was like seeing a unicorn. Now, we have Jeff Janis here, who is a pro NFL football player.
Specimen of a man.
Dude, I was watching you like just eat dinner in your T-shirt. It's like you got muscles on muscles, and you're
I
like,
didn't know you were analyzing me while I was
no, I
eating
just
dinner.
it's just
Seriously, between him and Chris this week, that,
yeah. We had
feel
Chris
like
Spealler.
yeah.
Chris takes his shirt off, and you're like,
that's not right.
man, I'm just inadequate as a man. Dude, seriously, you lift your arm up tonight, and you're like itching the back of your head, and your bicep like almost stabs you in the ear.
Must give you a black eye.
Thanks for the compliment. I feel a little skinny right now since I haven't been eating much.
Skinny,
Sitting in the tree stand.
skinny. I'd say lean,
Skinny sitting next to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sitting next to you is Owen Murphy. And
He can climb a tree way faster than I can.
because he's like 12 foot tall.
Yeah.
How tall are you, Owen?
6'3" with my shoes on. On a good day.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you invited me to come down here and whitetail hunt. I get a phone call because Donnie Wilson, mutual friend, and Chris Derrick over at Sitka, he's head of the whitetail line. Barklow, they all kind of told me, hey, this guy has this place down in Ohio, and it'd be cool if you could check it out. He's a really good dude, and he's got this great thing he's got going down there. And then like usual, I don't really respond to calls or messages very much, and
Brutal.
I'm kind of busy. And
It's tough. It's tough.
dude, Owen was persistent. Like
As it
It's
should
like a
be.
month. I'd like space it out a month. I'm like, okay, called him.
he had just the right amount of poke,
Yeah.
and
Not letting it go.
no. And then I got him on the phone, and we were talking. And he's kind of, I can't put, what is his accent exactly?
Yeah.
Midwestern.
Once you pointed it out.
You know what I
and you're-
mean?
Yeah.
You have
What
one
is it
too.
like?
No.
No.
No, I don't.
Janice has one too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is exactly. He is, when you look at him though, the beard and the body, right? I don't expect him to talk so friendly and nice. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
so polite. Jerk. He's so polite.
Screw you, man. That's exactly like his body and his voice don't match up.
I agree.
Yeah. But it's pleasant. Very, very pleasant.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
You
I
are
like
pleasant, man.
And then,
right?
Robert Gary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Robert Gary.
Robert, but if you say Robert.
Dude, I called you, what did I call you earlier this week?
You call me Rich.
Richard.
First night you called me
Richard. Like Richard.
And I didn't take Casey's advice. I was supposed to call you Ben for the remainder of this week.
Dude, it was a lot to take in all at once. I've been drinking heavily. No. Well, we're here we're calling this Latitude Outdoors.
No.
Ohio? Latitude, Ohio?
Latitudes, Ohio Whitetail Company.
Latitudes, Ohio Whitetail Company.
Yeah.
It's not exactly catchy, Robert.
No, it's not, but there's a Latitudes outfitting company. So this is this is like the subsidiary.
A branch
of.
And we were here with Chris Spealler as well, like we just mentioned. And he's never hunted before.
No.
Awesome human being.
Well, he has hunted. I should say he's hunted. He did like a Pennsylvania hunt back in like high school or something.
Yeah, he said like 20 years ago or something.
Yeah.
With a buddy.
And he shot doves once.
Yeah. But so this is like
New to archery.
Yes.
The whole archery game.
The whole archery thing's new.
Sweet.
He's gone to Total Archery Challenge with me in Utah 2 years in a row. And both years he shot with Cam and I. And he blows my mind. Like
just natural.
His shooting, he's just an athlete. And this week he's
got a new he's got a new avenue too. Product tester.
Yes.
Cold weather product tester.
Yeah, for sure.
That was hilarious, really.
So he killed a deer with his bow first time. I'm so anxious to get him on a podcast and kind of talk to him about that whole experience because it's killing something is a big deal. And then to do it the way he did it was just cool. So we'll have him tell that whole story. But that was pretty neat.
It was cool to be around, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Brings up memories.
Oh man.
Of your own first.
Yeah, I mean,
for like you said, a first for a gentleman at Chris's age, not that he's an old timer or anything, but just it's usually 10 years old, 12 years old, something like that. But at his age and getting into it, and it's kind of neat.
Yeah,
it's neat to be a part of it.
I've been trying to get him to go out and hunt for a few years. Got him his first bow, and really wanted to see him. I figured, like a lot of guys, he'll need to practice a lot and get really good. And yeah, he's shot twice. One at the first tack, the second tack. This week he shot a few in his Park City CrossFit building, and actually shot a few arrows before he left. But the Spealler has literally barely spent any time behind the bow, and he's natural. And then aced his first deer in a high speed,
in a whirlwind
of rutting whitetail action.
Did it well.
Yeah, very well.
Did it well.
So we got video, the whole thing. We're going to share that. So
yeah, that'll be neat.
So let's get into discussing a little bit of your background. Before we get into that, though, let's just throw people that are listening into. I just want to get after the questions I have, and then we'll go back and kind of get a little detail on this property and where you're at and so forth. But you guys put me on a great deer this week, and I managed to kill him tonight, and I'm just freaking stoked.
Yeah, we do need to get right to that.
And you guys, we're on 5,000 acres here in Ohio and Owen, Casey, can you grab those two deer for me? Owen shot a buck, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, late October.
About 3 weeks ago.
And this buck is special. And this property is special in that it has some crazy genetics. Just some cool, like, I have not seen, I mean, you just don't see deer like this very often. And if you're watching the video, you can see what some of these bucks look like. This thing right here, this deadhead, it's just a freak. I love the little stickers off the front, but the mass on that thing, the palmation, man. And what I've noticed, you guys have, how many cameras do you have up on this property, roughly?
So, we've got probably close to 20.
20?
20 on the link. Yeah, 20 on the link.
Probably 16 linked, and then, 4 or 5 kind of just dotted that are separate from the cutty back link.
Not enough.
Not enough.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. You can always have more cameras.
And so total cameras, you think you have
20.
20?
Mm-hmm.
20.
On 5,000 acres.
On 5,000 acres.
I mean, we're fully aware that
They've kind of like scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the beauty.
Yeah. So you guys started running the property, what, last year?
We got the invite 2 years ago, but last year was our first kind of jump in 2 feet, figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And what I want to get into is, so it's one thing we talked about this earlier. It's one thing to have a piece of property, scout it out, throw up some cameras, talk to neighbors, talk to whoever, and kind of know what's out here on the landscape, right? And you get a picture and you see, okay, there's this giant, 170 class whitetail running around, and just some old, like 7-year-old buck who's just like heavy horned, which he seemed to have a lot of mass. In this gene pool.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite. Like, I don't care about scores and inches. I just care about mass and like age, like just manliness.
The brute.
Yes. So you guys have a camera up, but it's one thing to say, we got this deer on the property. It's another thing to kill it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I live in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
Boots on the ground is Murphy over here. So even though it's 20 cameras, right? Like, those cameras generally don't they're not stationary very long, right?
Yeah.
It's
resetting.
Yeah,
like you run them and it's like, all right, I see what's showing up. Great kind of mental notes, jot it down, move them, space them back out, move them different,
How fun has that been? Like, to come out here, like Easter egg hunting for like these big bucks, and then to figure them out.
It's bad because they go to your phone.
Yeah. I almost like checking trail cameras almost more than I like actually hunting. Like, it's just, I just love checking trail cameras.
Yeah.
It's just awesome.
It's like shed hunting, right? It's
Yeah,
same thing. But
So let's get into a specific case study here. Like, let's just go into the buck I shot tonight. You called him Big Sexy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I love that name. It will always stick forever in my mind. Big Sexy.
You got Big Sexy.
So, this buck, when was the first time you saw him?
He showed up on camera last year, which was, last year, like, we got the keys basically end of August, early September. And we didn't have 16 cameras last year. We ran 5 cameras, 6 cameras, maybe. But just kind of, like, you look at the aerials, you look at the topos, and you go, all right, let's put these cameras here and just see what turns up.
And what were you looking for on those aerials and topos?
Here there's a lot more topography here than what I think a lot of people would associate with Ohio, which I think maybe after spending the week here you would probably agree with.
Or any of the Midwest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unique in that way.
I keep telling them, it's just like Buffalo County,
right,
in Wisconsin.
yeah, exactly.
It looks just like it.
Yeah.
And just looking, you know, I guess that's what's benefited me from living out west and hunting deer out west and elk is that I learned, I hunted a little bit here in high school, but I learned how to hunt in Montana and substitute flatland for, you know, topography, ridges, draws, and learn that way. You know? So use that these deer, you know, in the wintertime, this time of the year when the leaves come down, that stuff opens up, you know, as you've seen, there's some expansive draws that's wide open, but these deer use the ridges and stuff like that. You substitute that for cover, and that's how they move through this property big time.
Really?
And just as we discussed that, we knew that the deer that you killed tonight, he woke up this morning almost a mile from where you put an arrow through him.
That's wild.
Unbelievable.
And it's
and the thing is you guys, you know, we were talking about this earlier in the week. I sat a couple other spots the first couple of days, and then you're like, "There's this deer, big sexy. We're gonna put you on him." We've been wanting to kill him. He's a target deer. Yeah. He's one of the few that you want to kill this year.
Yeah.
And you had him figured out. So tell me how that all came about.
So we had him last year, knew his area, and we knew this summer too again, and we saw him during the rut last year, but just it never came to fruition because we only had about 3 guys hunting. So end of November, we had Chris and Josh in from Sitka, and he was still around, but nobody got a crack at him. So fast forward to this summer, late summer, we put the cameras back out, put them back where we had OG, the buck I shot, and then him. And sure enough, we put some minerals out, just kind of start counting heads again. And him and OG showed up in the exact same spot where they were last year.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that my buck last year that I shot this year, as soon as he sheds his antlers, he leaves. And I never could figure out where he went last year. I didn't see him back until after the new year, and he had already dropped his right side and busted off almost every tine on his left side.
Wow.
And then he showed back up again, a lot bigger, a lot badder, and with his cohort, Big Sexy.
Wow. So when did he show up? What time of year was it? When did you first?
Late August.
Late August.
Late August. Yeah.
Is that when you started watching for him, or?
Yeah, kind of when we got the cameras out and got everything situated and started getting after it again.
So how did you figure out, you know, where Big Sexy is a mile over here, that he would, by evening at last light, kind of end up where I was at? Which the first day I sat that spot, which you call Middle Earth. Mm-hmm. Why do you call it Middle Earth?
Because it's basically the north side. Yeah. It's like there's a road that splits the property, and then you've got about 1.5 miles as the crow flies to the northern boundary, which is a state park designated area on no hunting. And that stand falls east, west, north, and south right in the middle of all of that.
Middle Earth, baby.
With about 4 ridges that come together.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah,
right in there.
You were sitting
I'm sitting in a little saddle.
Yeah.
Little saddle.
The wind is just kind of doesn't know what it wants to do.
It's tough, and that's the tough thing with this topography is that you're like, well, the wind's doing this, but once you get up there, it doesn't really matter. It's like you said tonight, even it's like I just hope it's blowing the right way when that deer walks out.
So the first night I sat the stand, the first day I should say, it was pretty steady in the morning, but as soon as the sun came up, and this is before the freezing rain day, it just sort of blew in every which direction. And that was a nightmare because all day long the deer would smell me. And if they didn't smell me, they saw me. Like the wind's perfect, blowing hard in my face, and they're like,
which a lot of us thought it was the Indian, not the arrow.
Yeah, you kind of smell.
I mean,
you stink.
Yeah, there's that. I'm gritty, dude.
Like, gotta wash clothes and you gotta do those things, buddy.
Yeah. So we're sitting there and but sure enough, like what you said, you're like, this evening, be looking he's probably going to come down this trail. He likes to scent check. He had a scrape right over there, and then swing through nearby where I was at.
Yep.
And so, how'd you figure that out?
I put some stuff together from last year where I caught him on camera moving, and just the way, and then even with having more cameras out this year, and
how'd you connect the dots from where he stepped out on the road tonight?
You can't really connect that fine of a dot, right?
Yeah.
You can get close.
Right.
Yeah.
But you knew there was a scrape there.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And that he was coming out.
I knew he visited it.
That there was that trail right there. Mm-hmm. But that's where a bunch of bucks came out and then stopped, looked at me in the tree, and then ran off because the wind was blowing right to him. Like, dang it, like over and over again.
Well, he had left the other day, and he had shown up south of you, like you said, about 0.7 of a mile, and then by some stroke of divine intervention, he walked by two cameras on the way to you that weren't baited, but they were just in places where I figured these deer, and mainly I was looking for him, traveled, and he walked by. He started at one, went to the other, and that day, though, I think you were in that, but he never made it. There's a lot of green in between you and him, and he crosses, a good trail or a doe that's in heat, and never see him.
Yeah. And I told you how
a lot of extenuating things that can happen.
And that first day when I was up there, there was a buck that was hot on a doe, and doe comes running up the hill, and I can hear her breathing and just trucking through the woods. And if you've hunted whitetail or deer long enough, that sound. It's like there's bucks chasing does, and you live for it. And the doe comes screaming over the hill. Her tongue is hanging out, mouth is wide open. And it's funny, you don't really see deer pant like a dog very often, but during the rut, and her mouth is just gaping, and she is sucking wind, and she comes running up, and she stops, and she looks back at the trail like, is he still following me? It's like, stop it some more, like, stop it some more. And he comes running over the hill, and I got the bow out. I'm like, there's the buck coming. And she sees him, he breaks open into the open, he just runs right in front of me down below, and I'm looking at him, and your goal on this property is to kill a certain age class of deer.
Yeah.
Not antler size.
No.
You want to kill the mature bucks.
Yeah.
And that means they need to be 5 years old, roughly.
Yeah.
And older.
Be nice. Yeah. 5.5 or so.
Yeah. There's going to be some 4.5-year-olds. Good or bad.
Like one that Janice almost dumped tonight.
I wasn't going to shoot it. There was other people.
Outside influence. He almost did drink the Kool-Aid.
Shoot him.
He almost drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. How'd you like that pressure from Mr. Harbison all night?
That's okay.
Shoot him in the face.
Yeah. In the face.
Jeez. Yeah. Which was fun. I mean, that's one thing about whitetail hunting is we're all on a text thread.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
It's fantastic. It's
big.
the best.
This is a hunting camp like at its best, at its finest. Because y'all have cell reception, which is...
Except for Jeff.
Yeah.
90% of the time.
Yeah.
Because AT&T doesn't work so well
not
here.
Work here.
Verizon.
Unless you're on the top of the hill.
On point.
Then we're good.
And
yeah, like tonight, I was covered up in deer, and my phone was right here, and it was just...
Dude!
And I'm like, gosh dang it, I can't check it. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
That's why, I don't tell anybody there's a deer here because everybody blows up your phone. Especially these two.
Yep.
Monday morning.
Whoa, let's back some stuff up.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah, man.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Look.
That was...
It was not nice.
Not nice.
Look, it's too tempting. It's too tempting not
it is.
to, jerk a chain on this.
Jerk a chain.
There's a lot of motion on the other end of that chain.
Yeah.
That was awesome, though.
Yeah,
we were all on the phone, just like,
yeah. A case in point, I decided that it would be fun to, just to get a rise out of everybody. So it's called our group thread is Beaver Creek Killers. Yeah. And this is the Beaver Creek
drainage
here in Ohio.
Yeah,
it's fitting, and I think it was day 1, maybe day 2.
Day 2. It was day 2.
All I did was type.
So the buck of my dreams, ... is what you typed. So from the outfitting perspective, right?
Yeah.
It's what we were trying to do, right?
Right.
Maybe it's something we don't even know about.
Right. I mean, it could be Goliath, and it makes your buck look kind of small.
Could be.
Right.
Got you a little excited, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I left y'all hanging there.
Yeah.
for a while.
Actually, I immediately went to type the rest of it, which I thought would be really funny, which is might show up tonight.
Right.
Right?
And it was like,
But instead, my phone exploded. What the hell? Where more? Don't leave us hanging. Like, bzz, 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 bzz. I couldn't even type. Bad. And then I felt a little guilty at that point because I realized I had touched a nerve there.
You should have.
Yeah.
And then you got put in timeout.
Yeah.
You went to the timeout spot.
Yeah.
The timeout stand.
That stand, there was nothing.
Which we told Casey was a joke, and we put him in there tonight, and he didn't see a thing.
That was
but it was a timeout stand. But 2 days later, it got tore up.
It's a home run. It was a home run stand, almost like Brian's. You might not see a lot, but if you see him, you're going to see
El Paso. That's
It's called the Gar Hole. So it's cool to have that text thread going, and you can like communicate and kind of talk it out and everything. And you guys are like, buck is coming your way. This is the first night I sat in that stand, and it was cool. But when I sat there, and that buck came running over with the doe, back to that, she's huffing and puffing. I try to get a look at that buck, and you guys are looking for that big mature body and stuff, and he didn't look just big. He looked nice, like any other place I've ever hunted whitetail. And I mean, I would have shot him, like, no question.
But it's like any other animal that you hunt, right? Like, when it's a big bull, when it's a big mule deer, right? I mean, it's no different.
You can tell when a buck has great genetics, but he's just not that old yet, So he was pretty impressive on the headgear, but his body just didn't have the mass, And I was like, I've said, full disclosure, I'm not very good at judging.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, if something like this buck comes walking out, I'll know, right? Mm-hmm. He's just a freak. But the more symmetrical, I would say, it's like, it's a little tough, especially when it's happening fast and you're just getting glimpses of it through the trees.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So I didn't want to be the guy that shot a 3-year-old thinking it was a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And so when that buck came over the hill, I was like, yeah, man. And so I wondered if I made a mistake or not. And I glassed him up, but we had a talk afterward, and you're like, it couldn't have been Big Sexy, because the distance where Big Sexy was at the time I saw him, you got him on camera, and he couldn't have been in two places at once, basically.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yep.
But that whole spot had a little bit of action, but it was really, compared to other places I sat, more like where you were at tonight, Jeff. Mm-hmm. Seems like deer come out, they hang out for a while, mill around, and kind of walk off. This spot is just sort of a passing corridor.
Yep.
They're just kind of crossing. It's like a cross.
Yep.
And they kind of walk, and they could come from any direction. What I noticed, but that makes for kind of a boring sit in a tree stand.
Which, to your credit, Which to your credit.
Yeah, 3 days in a row, all day.
Buckled up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Got in there.
That's really impressive.
It wasn't. It rained all day yesterday.
Yeah.
Literally the coldest. It could be 15 degrees and blowing snow, and that's great. It's cold. That's cold. Rainy and 32 degrees.
No thanks.
No.
But you got to put. It's got.
We
It's
sat
time
there.
spent. I mean, it becomes a law of average, right?
Yep. Yep.
And anybody who chases, especially whitetails, right? I mean, we all know, right? You get there and you stay there.
Well,
put your time in.
And these older deer, what I noticed the first 3 days I was here, the older deer would spot me pretty quickly, often. Mm-hmm. And one of them was the first stand I was in. And I think, I stink, of course. Like, I mean, there's that. But there's also, like, I think these deer are, a mature whitetail gets mature for a reason.
Yeah.
I could fool the 2-year-olds and the 3-year-olds and the 1-year-olds. Like, that's easy.
Yeah.
You get to 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's a totally different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hunted blacktails in the Northwest, it was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Those old deer they didn't come out and give you those shots. And what's uncanny are the does. Like, they typically live longer than a buck does. They just don't rut and do the same things. And you can just tell when they're old and they're like, they know the game.
Savvy.
Yeah, they sit back about 50 yards, let everything else kind of.
Yeah, we talked about that tonight.
Yeah.
We hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had like 3 of them just staring at me like 10 yards underneath me as my phone's in my hand
And you're
and my bow, and I'm trying to send pictures of the buck and respond to your guys' text, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is gonna blow up.
What's so funny about that is the does know you're there. They're looking.
Oh yeah,
The bucks don't.
The bucks don't.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, after the first day I sat in the stand, which that first day
was rocking.
Yeah, you guys,
and Jeff
with
both
all your
had,
20
yeah.
cameras out and with the link going, it's like having surveillance on at all times. So you're like, deer are just running everywhere. And that day was pretty off the hook for me, just with the chasing and stuff and the activity. And they're just bolting through that pinch point.
Yep.
But they're not really hanging out. That was cool. And then, but
the next day,
I think I told you guys, like, I got busted like 8 out of 10 times. It was seriously pissing me off.
It's the only one. Nobody else.
yeah.
And I'm just saying, I got busted. Of course, that saddle, like I said earlier, the wind would blow. I told you guys, it blew all over. Only direction it didn't blow was one direction, and not a damn deer came down that direction. So it was like a matter of time. As soon as a deer walked into my space, my vicinity, it would get in there and it'd chill. It'd be walking through, then the wind would switch and it'd look around and run off. And so that was pissing me off. And
Did you do any scent control at all to your clothes?
No.
Yes, I washed before I got here, but
With like Tide?
no, it's like scent control.
I know.
Gain?
Yeah.
Like scent control soap and all that.
Okay.
But you can't like wear the hunting clothes to the football game and
Right.
Right.
It's gotta go. We're in the house.
Yeah, but if
like,
you're,
it's gotta
if
go.
you're up, if you're out of their wind, it's fine. They're gonna smell.
How'd that work?
You. Okay, look. I'll tell you this.
I guess it worked
washed.
good tonight.
I washed and I did everything the same.
yeah.
And if a deer went downwind of me, it still smelled me.
They're
frustrating.
always gonna smell you.
Yeah.
Always.
They do.
How much?
I always
That's true.
I always tell people though, it's they'll always smell you, but you're just buying yourself time.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the deer you're after, you're buying yourself seconds before he figures out what exactly you are.
Yeah.
And you have to approach getting into the stand and everything you do on that. Like, don't just assume that they're never going to smell you.
Right.
They smell you. They smell your, whether you have rubber boots on or, your gym shoes.
Yeah.
They're going to smell your footstep.
Yeah.
So
Which is
plan
crazy.
accordingly how you get,
How you get in there and
how.
yeah.
I always take, when I walk into a stand, I take it that if they cut my track, by the time they cut my track, then I'm going to have a shot at them.
Yeah, right.
Details.
Well, and you guys set that thing up so perfectly for that reason.
In theory, that the way it went down was, that was the idea.
And so
he came right up. Like, there was no cutting your track or nothing.
Yeah, you were texting me the first night, and we're like, put your bow in your lap and face that direction, and he's going to come out. Get ready, And this is just before the sun goes down. Mm-hmm. He did not come out, but
did not. But we wanted you ready.
Another deer did and looked straight at me and ran away. So, at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put that stand on the moon. I'm gonna climb halfway up that tree and stick the stand up. So the next morning, I went in and I raised it really high. But the freezing rain, it didn't. The deer. So this is interesting, right? You'll hear people all the time, especially in the Northwest. They'll say like, "Oh yeah, the rain came in, the storm. The deer are just gonna be up and moving all over." And I'll hear that a lot for blacktail, especially. And in my experience, that is not true. Like, I find that when it's wet like that and cold, real cold, they tend to like bed up.
You bet.
Just wait for it to pass.
Yeah. I think we'd all agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
To us.
It was quiet.
The cameras
there was
shut down.
Like overnight. Like from one day to the next. Yeah.
Night and day. Which is it? It's intriguing to watch, to see, because then it's like it resonates in your mind. Like, they're really not moving.
And there's exceptions. There's always exceptions.
Of course, and that's why you sit all day.
Rain. Like it happens.
Yep.
But
I was going to say that's why you sit all day.
Right.
Yeah.
Because even though it's like that, you just don't know.
Mm-hmm. Is Gritty sitting all day? Yeah, he's sitting all day.
Yeah.
Casey handed me his bow when I picked him up. And it was completely, there wasn't an inch that did not have ice on it.
Oh, yeah.
Not one.
I was taking the carabiner and chipping the ice off the cams and off the handle and off the sight and stuff every 5 minutes, because it would just ice over again and I'd chip, break it all off and draw my bow. And then, it was hard to be stealthy up there, but, it was like all day long, and it started to soak through the clothes. It took, I'm wearing that Sitka Fanatics system.
Mm-hmm.
And all day, it took all day
constant soak
for it to like kind of seep through and start to get to the skin.
And that wears, man, right? That wears on people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you come here, you come to destination place and you're here for X amount of time, so you're maximizing everything. But I got to tell you, if that was local for me, nope. I'm inside, I'm doing chores, I'm hanging out with my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a low percentage day to spend out in the woods.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. You guys knew where Big Sexy was hanging out. You knew from a mile away that he had a circuit and he'd hit these spots. You over the course of time, you connected these dots. He goes here, and then about this time he's here, and about this time he's here. What's interesting about that is this is in the peak rut, and yet he's still making that circuit. I just thought that when the rut came, they'd lose a lot of that patterning.
There's some wild card to it, for sure. He did, right? He didn't make it to the other night.
True.
He did the loop 2 days ago, and he started his loop at 2. Today he started at like 9 o'clock.
So you got to be on it, though. You got to be.
He started at 9 o'clock,
but he has a loop. That's the thing. Like, he may not hit it at the same time, but he's doing it.
He did it at 9 o'clock, and you saw him almost a mile away at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
day.
He could have a doe or something in the area that he just knows is around.
Exactly.
Come checks on her.
Yeah. I mean, if he doesn't,
says what's up.
He obviously must not have to travel far because
right.
Says I'll be
up
by
for a while. Right.
Yep.
I mean, yeah.
I got to tell you, there's about 30 minutes left of light. I'm sitting in the stand.
I'm on my 800th peanut M&M, peanut butter M&M,
and
from the cabin.
And I have sat in this same stand on like a Monday through Friday hunt.
Yeah.
I have spent Wednesday through Friday in the same stand.
Looking at the same trees.
The same everything. While I see Casey and Janice like jumping around and they're texting you videos of bucks and deer and they're like, and there's so many. I'm like, I'm seeing nothing.
And look who shot one.
It's ironic. I mean, that's the thing. You guys knew where the buck was going. And you know there's that loop, and I feel like you gotta hunt where that buck is if you want to kill him.
So, and it's not that Jeff and Casey and Chris and Keith had anything less, right? Those bucks just didn't give us the same report, so it couldn't be as consistent.
Yep.
So, Casey hunted El Paso, right, tonight.
Yep.
Mike Massey, 10 days ago? Had the opportunity to be in his vicinity. No looks, no reports, right? So they all do it. They all have the personality, right? They all have that in them.
Yep.
And it's just figuring it out, timing.
Yep.
And whoever said it. And there's the element of luck, too.
Yeah.
You need a little luck.
You need a little luck.
I figured if he shows up in daylight on the spot that I'm at, and especially at last light, which is we're kind of at the tail end of his, just before dark, that's where he'll show up. Where these bucks are, moving because it's the rut, I feel like sitting there, if he shows up once every 5 days, my best chance is to sit that same stand as many days in a row as I can until that time he shows up. Because the odds are, if he doesn't smell me, that I'm going to get that chance.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't smell me or see me.
And that's why we set that stand kind of off of, we never really had him north of you. He was always south. So if you can get in there and get quietly, scent free, whatever, you get in, get out, everybody, you want to overhunt a stand. But it's almost as, we had pictures of him Sunday celebrating our Browns victory.
That's right.
Mind you.
Yeah. You almost
Monday.
almost lost some fans in Ohio today.
We didn't hunt it Monday. And it's almost that every day that he doesn't show up,
the odds go up.
The odds go up.
Yeah.
And
Any day now.
Yep. He's not there. He's not there. He's due. It's time. Like, he's due.
Yep.
And
what surprised me is so little deer movement, right? Since I've been in that spot, it's not like I've seen a ton of deer in 3 days in that spot. In fact, I saw like 2 does, and the rest were like spikes and little forked horns. And then I saw that one chasing the doe. And then tonight, this afternoon, like 11, I think, something like that. A nice, like
3.5 reel or something.
Yep. Just came cruising through, just walking, just passing through the saddle. But deer movement super low, and it's not like I see a ton of does. And it doesn't remind me of hunting like blacktail, because you don't see hardly any deer, and you're just waiting for that unicorn to step out and against all odds and give you that chance. So tonight, there's a half hour left, 3 days in the same spot. And I'm like, did I use my time wisely? Is this really, was my too hard-headed? Right? Did I, morning till dark, 3 days in a row in the same tree where there's very little movement,
Yeah. I got to give you credit. Yeah. I know a lot of guys, and even including myself, who would have been like, all right, I just want to.
Let's go get a warm up.
Yeah.
Change of scenery.
Yeah. Somewhere where I can see,
I was thinking when I was in those last 30 minutes, you're questioning all those things, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm like, well, you know what? That's the deer I wanted. you know, Big Sexy is the one I kind of got my heart set on, and you get kind of like mental attached,
emotionally attached.
And at that point, I'm like, you know, I'd rather have tried best that I thought I could in this area and go home empty than, you know. But then I started looking at that deadhead right there in my head, you know, that thing, and I'm like, dude, there's big junk all over this place. Maybe I should be in a different tree.
Yeah. Well, then Donnie called you out today, kind of.
Yeah.
That was a little motivator.
Yes. Yeah.
Motivator.
Doing a little Instagram out there. And he's like, you know, welcome to whitetail hunting.
Yeah.
Lots of miserable, cold days of just sitting.
But the reward is...
It's amazing.
Yeah. The reward is everything.
It's
that
amazing.
setting, the ice, the snow.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't ask
Incredible.
for more.
No.
When that... So I'm sitting there going... I think I texted. It's like it only takes like 1 minute, like a couple of minutes for him to show up just before dark, and everything changes. And he came down that road where you told me to put my bow in my lap and face, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, I knew where he probably would come down if he showed up, and you know, like I said, I saw one deer this afternoon, and everything's dead, and it's just about dark. And that sucker steps out, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me! I couldn't believe it. I was like, yes! And he steps out, and I see the body on him right away, and he's just a pig, just a huge deer, old deer. And he steps out, and I saw him kind of just appear and hit the road and start walking down the road. And he did the same thing that the other bucks did and stopped at that darn tree and looks up the road at my tree. Like up there, like he's just looking down the road and up. And why do these deer look up? Like that irritates me. Like when I hunt blacktail, they never look up. They don't look, they're not trained to look up.
They're conditioned.
I texted you guys earlier. I said, this deer knows he's being hunted.
He does.
In case he wanted to take down all the posts about him.
Yeah, immediately take down
all social media communication. He knows.
Everything goes away.
Yeah. So at that point, when he hung up there, I was like, darn it. I hope and it's interesting. He went back into the tree line. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of was like, I'm not going to go right down the road. I don't feel safe. I'm going to go through the trees. And so he did. He went through the trees, and I could tell he kept looking over where he goes through that saddle. Mm-hmm. He wanted to cross the road and go straight there, but he decided, you know, I'm going to take a minute and stay in the tree line and then just only expose myself across this road for the shortest period of time.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is wild.
And so as I saw him circling back, I could see his body language where he was looking. I was like, okay, he's going to step out, and I'm going to get a draw on this sucker, you know. And he came out, and he actually stopped in the road and looked around. And I'm like, he's right below me now.
Did you have the bow in your lap? When did you get your bow?
So the last 2 hours, I had the bow, you know, on that Sitka jacket and vest. Well, the cargo pocket's huge.
Yeah.
So I stick the cam in the pocket. And I just have my bow right there. Arrow's knocked. Garmin's ready to go.
So the first 3 days, you were holding your bow like this the whole time?
On the last hour or 2 hours, because just because I know that's the witch. I know that's the hour when he's supposed to show up.
Hashtag gritty.
Mine just hangs. I cannot.
Because I didn't want to. And I had the camera the other day. I had the camera out and on where I anticipated him being for the last hour, and just hit record, so it was just ready to go. Oh. I was just getting ready to do that because I just didn't do it, you know. It was like
it's meant to be that way, though.
Yeah. And so when he showed up, I was like, and he was kind of. It happened fast.
You knew.
You saw where he's at. He's like
he's right
50
there.
yards where he comes out when I first saw him. So I was like, I ain't screwing around with this. And when he hit that road, and he froze kind of in the road, I couldn't draw because he's looking up and kind of just scanning. So I'm like, just turn and hit that. And he did. He turned and started walking. And Casey and I are running that Garmin Zero site, which is like, I've been dying to use this on whitetail.
I'm sold.
Because, you don't use a rangefinder ahead of time. I'm marking all the trees. Like, I know this is 15, that's 12. And I put this stand on the moon. I don't know how high it is up there.
FAA regulations.
Like, it's up there. So it's a steep angled shot. And when you use angle compensation, it's a little harder to go, what's the just right pin when you're, he's close, but with those angles, it's trickier. And, but with this sight, I don't have to deal with that.
That's awesome.
So
I'm so OCD about mine. Like, I have to range a deer right before I shoot it. I'm just because I have to know that exact yard. Because
did I at full draw.
Yeah, if I miss, it's going to be like I should have ranged. Like
right, or just low or high.
And you can miss. I mean, a deer isn't that big a target, and it's easy to miss. And I didn't have time to range. I mean, I would have guessed
that too.
That he was under 20, and I would have held my 20 pin low.
Sure,
but it wouldn't be a precision shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you are gapping. You're guessing.
Yep.
So you could be 3 inches lower or 3 inches higher, which is still in the margin of error, but it's not center punch.
Correct.
So there's a lot of confidence in having it be the exact pin.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm impressed.
Oh, my God.
That's awesome.
That shot.
Dude, he walked. I came to full draw as soon as he turned his head, and he didn't hear it or spook at all,
which is a great feeling.
And that was a relief.
It's like that calms you down when you get through with that. You're like, all right, now
if he pins you when you do that. That's when you're like,
oh. Yep. He kind of put his head up, because I'm right above him. I'm 16. It turns out the shot was 16 yards. I don't know what the degree angle was, but 16 yards, probably 30 yards line of sight. Or something like that. But, I mean, it was right under me.
Severe, yeah.
But 16 yards, and I range his body at full draw, and then when you let go of the button, it drops on the Garmin. It drops that 16-yard pin. Boom. Just like that. I mean, it happened instantaneously. Like, range, pin. And I knew I had to be quick because once he went in front of this tree, it was a wall of branches. And I'm like, okay, I got the range, pin dropped, and I was like, meh. He stopped, put it where I wanted it to exit,
laced him.
and just smoked him.
Laced him
through
and
his entire body.
Yeah. a pass through.
It was a hell of a shot, man.
Yeah.
Pass through on the entire body.
Yeah.
And then 8 inches into the ground.
From his hocks to his chest.
Yeah. Right through the center of the chest.
Oh, my God.
That Valkyrie arrow, I don't even have to it's like a laser bolt. Like, it's like, I don't even have to worry about where the animal's facing. I keep telling people this. It's got a 200 grain tip. It's 505 grain arrow. It's got all that weight forward FOC, and it just blows through. And then it's so sharp, it just see these 3 cuts here? That was just me pulling an arrow out of the quiver and getting a little too close.
Incredible.
I tell people it's like a lightsaber. You don't want to touch anything. It'll just cut your arm off.
Yeah.
So it went right through his whole body. Didn't even slow down. Blew out his chest. And this is the good part. When you see an animal go down within sight, it's such a relief.
Heck yeah.
But when it punched him, he turned, and within 4 seconds or 5 seconds, he was done.
Sleepy time.
He jumped, he jumped probably a 4-foot hurdle that he went over, and then
I saw him at that point. He was already wobbling when he hit that log, and it was just desperate. And then he hit the ground and got back up and hit the ground and got back up, and it was over. 4-5 seconds?
Yeah, he didn't go far at all.
No.
It's so such a relief.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm like, this just happened. Holy cow. Like, I couldn't even believe it. Oh.
Yeah, I'm trying. What'd you say in the text?
I don't even remember.
Luckily, it was convincing enough that it wasn't
Yeah,
the crying wolf that you've done all week, and that we knew it was real.
It was legit.
Oh, yeah. I was so stoked. I knew you guys were all rooting for us to get something. You know,
Absolutely.
It's been a long week, and it's what you guys work so hard for. You know, and so that was a relief. But he is a beautiful, beautiful deer.
Yeah, he is, buddy.
Yeah, he's a cool
How
deer.
old do you think he is?
I want to say he's 5.5.
Yeah.
We can,
Like you said, it's just on the cusp, and we can get that.
We'll get his
confirmed.
jaw for you.
Yeah.
So right in that money spot that you want these deer to be in.
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
How old was this guy?
I'd say he was right there
Same.
too. Although I feel like, and this is just my theory, but he left. He and Big Sexy were hanging out in the summer, but he left. I almost think that Big Sexy is older or more dominant buck than he is, and that's why he would leave.
Yeah, instead of staying in his stomping
and
area.
he, from where he was summering, he went a half a mile as the crow flies into a and he only ran on about 40 acres is where he was living.
It's crazy.
It's wild compared to
A mile square.
what your deer does.
Yeah.
So I did a series of podcasts with Ryan Carter on
Yes.
targeting big elk, right? And the one thing that I took away from it was that each elk has its own individual personality.
Yeah.
And it has its own patterns and
Same
its
thing.
own behaviors that it does.
Same thing.
And so you can't just say, well, this is what elk do. It doesn't work. Like, especially the older they get, if they live a long time, they have a distinct personality and things that they do that are completely opposite from another deer or another elk.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's no different.
That was took a lot from that. Like I said, with Ryan and the way he says, I like to kill him before the rut. I'm on board. He signed me up. I'm on his program. Like, give me October and OCD in that realm.
Yeah.
I want to know the exact way of how they get there, and then we'll put you in between and kill them then.
And we talked about that this week. Much easier to kind of see where they're at this time of year, during that time of year.
Yep.
Yeah, and it changes, right? Like there's summer. There's
These deer with this amount of
pre-rut,
property, and
yeah.
I guess this isn't typical Midwest either, is that it's not checkerboard, timber, ag, 50 acre, 100 acre, 200 acre patches of timber, cornfields or bean fields. This is like
contiguous.
Of this 5,000 acres, let's say it's 80% timbered,
Yeah.
which is kind of a rarity.
Yeah.
Like we have agricultural fields, but some of the deer may never
Even go on it.
never even go on.
A lot of
That's
natural
crazy.
food sourcing. I mean, it's unique, certainly unique. I mean, there's a lot of guys that control that kind of ground, but to have it under one roof, man, it's awesome.
What I think is cool about this is you guys having the ability to, at some point, what you're doing now is manage it for, better habitat, better age class, better, just make that
We're paying attention to the deer. The family's done an unbelievable job of taking care of the property, but now we're just giving a little more love into the deer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's neat. One thing it's funny, like we joke on the West Coast, about how easy it is to whitetail hunt. You just stick you just hang it in a tree and you just kill one. And I'm like,
Yeah.
freaking A, dude.
Nope.
I feel, yes, let's talk about that for you and for Chris too. That was here.
Yeah.
I mean, you go in there, you freeze, like frozen.
He was
frozen.
Yeah, so Spealler is the world's coldest man.
Yeah.
Like, he cannot generate his own body heat.
It's crazy.
The
He has
world's
to have-
strongest man and
Yeah,
his
you'd
world's
think with all
coldest
that
man.
muscle.
He's like Mighty Mouse.
Burning.
just like, go to his Instagram page, people, and look at what he does.
It's not right. Unbelievable.
No.
What he can lift is it's 3 times his body weight and more. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So that dude goes in a tree stand for 30 minutes and he's about to die of hypothermia.
Yes. With the world's, best whitetail gear on.
Yeah.
7 layers of it.
7 layers.
Yeah.
And hot hands galore.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah. All over.
Yeah.
I mean, in his defense, he did have Walmart 40 below boots the
true.
first few days because our lacrosse, what do they call those lacrosse Burleys didn't show up until, 2-3 days into the hunt,
Yeah.
which was a game changer for him. He still froze to death.
Yep.
So it's a grind. Like,
You at least get to appreciate it. Like, nah, I get it. Like, and I think he got it too. Like, this, it's one thing if you walk out there for anything you do, fishing, or you walk out there and then you shoot it open, especially for somebody just getting into it. I don't think you truly could grab it better the way he did it.
yeah.
If somebody, when I was getting started, said, "Hey, you're going to go sit in a stand all day," I would have been like, no. No. But everybody's there like, yeah, we're going to sit all day. And I think he wanted an option, but he really didn't have it.
Like, that must be what we have to do, or that's just what we do. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and
he was worried about being cold, and and rightfully so, because we joked about this. If you take an ice cube and you insulate it, it's still an ice cube. So if Chris can't generate heat on his own, and then you just wrap him up real warm, like you're not warm,
Nope.
And so thankfully, we had a lot of hot hands. So I'm a firm believer in an external heat source.
Yeah.
Like, not self-generated.
Yeah.
So Janice, what's like your system?
So
Because he has he's got the Quiet Cat bike. It's called the Quiet Cat.
Yeah.
Thing is legit. I want one so bad. He came cruising up tonight after I shot my buck. I just see this headlamp just coming through the trees in the snow in the dark, and I'm like,
Dead quiet.
man, that's
fast.
I'm like, that thing's quiet. That Polaris or whatever. You're
Side by side.
side by side. I'm like, that's quiet, and it's getting closer, and it's hauling butt. I'm like, what? And then I realized it was your sneaky bike.
Yeah, I love that thing, and I've been surprised by it. And
so while I sweat my balls off going into the stand every day,
the
like hiking
main
a
thing.
mile,
Yeah.
and I get there and I'm soaking wet, and they complain they tell me I stink. You're riding a bike in there like
chilling,
a freaking
hands getting a little
pimp.
chilly. Yeah, dude, I love it. And that's the biggest thing that I like about it is so I'm not all hot and sweaty when I get up there. But that did happen to me a couple times.
Mind you, Jeff is the winner of the award for the week of, like, when granted you were up, but when he walks out of his room, he is
like, ready to go.
He could be in the tree stand.
Yeah, I'm ready to rip, man.
He's
but
ready.
no, I brought my heated vest this week.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
So I had that underneath.
Which is
Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's like a Milwaukee. It's actually a heated, like a zip-up hoodie. Is what it is. And I have 2 batteries for it, so when the one dies, if I have it on high.
And is that like a game changer?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I usually get up in the stand, and I'm usually a little hot, so I wait. And as soon as I get a little, chill, turn that puppy on, and I just sit there.
I think you were the envy of Chris Spealler.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He would have loved it. I would have gave it to him, but it would have been way too big for him. But
yeah. So that's one of the key parts to your system.
Yeah.
The Ninja bike.
The bike.
The Ninja bike.
Yeah. And I have a lot of stuff in my backpack too. So none of the tree stands really were like set up. Cause I mean, like you had climbing sticks and stuff like that. So I have like 2 bow hangers, you know, so I can get up there and it's kind of like make my own living room up there. You know, I hang my bow, I take my calls out, I hang my calls.
Yep.
I hang my backpack. I get, if I'm using any scent, I let that hang out. Like I just, over the years, I've just developed my own way of doing things, and that's just how I do it.
Yeah, I showed up without a bow hanger one day, and then I dropped my bow 20 feet to the ground.
Oh my gosh.
And then I went down and got it, and it's fine. It was fine, but yeah, it didn't. I hung I hang it on this little like branch, like all janky, and I'm like, it'll stay. And I started taking my shirt off and changing my clothing a little bit, and just fell right down. And then I just watched it go, and I was like, oh no. And it hit this branch and then tipped over and fell, and it sort of bounced a little, and I was like, huh. Got down there, I drew it. It looked like it's fine. So I hunted the rest of the evening, and then came home and shot it a bunch of times and it's dead on. So
cool.
It's crazy.
That Hoyt took a dump. It was fine. So bow hangers are important.
Yes. I brought an extra one with me just because to have in my backpack case
so you don't drop it.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, as soon as I get in there, I screw that in, and then my bow sits like right here. So the second I see a deer, it's like,
yeah,
yeah,
that would have been nice.
Except tonight,
I
had
did
it on the wrong side.
I gotta say, like, with the wind being like it is, and the cold and the wet, holding your bow sucks.
Yeah,
sucks.
And that's what happened to me tonight. Because I had my phone in one, trying to ask if this deer was like
big enough.
As I was holding my bow, and I didn't have my gloves. I forgot my gloves here at the lodge in the dryer, so I was just skin on my bow, just right on. And
was that for like 20 minutes?
Yeah, it was long.
See, that's gritty right there.
Yeah. Then my arm started getting tired, and then I was like hooking my quiver arrows like in my pants to try and like.
Don't care if you're cold, Jeff. We need updates. What's happening?
Yeah. At one point, you were like, "Oh, Jeff and Casey went quiet."
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm covered in deer." Put my phone back.
It's awesome. Good night.
How many hand warmers and stuff do you use? Do you put some in your feet?
I did.
In your boots?
Yeah, I did the past few days. I put some toe warmers on top of my toes. And then I wear like a pouch for my hands, and I just pop a couple in there. So I usually just wear a pair of thin gloves so I can like still operate the phone and stuff like that. Cause, I mean, and I got your release and stuff like that. So a thick pair of gloves I don't really like to wear.
Yeah.
But so I just
I
like
bare
to keep
hands.
Yeah. I just like to keep my hands.
I don't like gloves.
Don't like gloves.
Can't shoot with them.
Nope.
Yeah.
I found that if you tuck some of those hand warmers right down your pants,
Oh, I'm sure.
just either side of center,
Center mass.
right, you can right on the hip flexors. Just they stick. They have the body warmers that have the like
Adhesive?
Adhesive. Stick that sucker right, and then when you sit down, and you naturally put your hands in the kangaroo pouch,
You
right?
need the muff.
And
You
they just
need
like
the
Yes.
muff.
Yeah,
The Sitka
the muff
muff.
is-
That's key.
well, the pocket on that is pretty legit on that.
Fanatic.
Fanatic.
It
Yeah,
is.
absolutely.
I mean, it's all fuzzy and warm, and you got some hand warmers in there too, and it's just like you just slip your hand in there. It's like having to buy the warm fire.
Yeah.
That's true.
But it next to skin body warmer down in that region is so I couldn't believe how comfortable I was. I'm just
Chris,
telling you,
too.
I'm sharing this because I think it's critical
People
piece
need
of intel.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
next time I'm going to slap some over to the kidneys.
You know it
Yeah.
says do not place
Yeah.
directly
on skin.
Yeah, well, I have no lasting burns.
Yeah.
It's true.
It was cold, dude.
Chilly.
Chris was doing the same thing. He had them all over.
Yeah, he had a whole
Yeah.
system. You got to put the
Yeah, he's like, you got to
One on the
sandwich
top.
your toes.
Yeah, one
with
on
a
top,
hand warmer.
one
on the
One
bottom.
top, one on bottom. Then a sock over that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That poor guy was.
The fact
cold.
that he was able to get his bow back is a feat in itself.
Yeah.
That's part of the challenge is, you're trying to bundle up, but you don't want to be so bundled you can't draw your bow or shoot right.
Correct.
And on the Garmin site, there's the reticle, and that it removes parallax in the sight.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you come to full draw, if you have the reticle set up correctly, and you're at full draw and your peep is aligned with your sight housing, that dot in the reticle converges. It gives you whatever you put it on. That's what it's actually ranging.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to set that up, and it also helps you correct your form. Like if for some reason you come to full draw and those don't converge, then you're torquing the bow somehow. You're not repeating. You're not anchoring the same spot. Like something's not the same. So it's a nice tool to teach. Well, I found that when I came to full draw, when I'm hunting September or August with my clothing, it's a little different than when I'm wearing tons of layers. Like I don't anchor I don't clear the same way.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the reticle doesn't converge. So getting the reticle set up for what I'm actually wearing, it's what I did for this hunt. I went out there, put on all the layers and the hat and the gloves and the whole thing that I would hunt in, got the reticle dialed, shifted a little bit, took about 20 minutes or so on the Garmin. And then I sighted in another 20 minutes out to 70 yards. Figured I wouldn't shoot further than that here.
No.
And 0 to 70, sight's done.
Money.
And every time I come to full drop, it's
Right in there.
dialed.
Yep.
And it's nice because when you get on an airplane or you travel, you go, like, I wouldn't really know that the sight isn't quite lined up on like my black gold or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in. I wish we could use them in Montana.
Yeah, that sucks.
Well, the one thing I like about it, like I've told people before, because Garmin doesn't pay me. I'm not sponsored by Garmin or anything like that. In full disclosure, they gave me the site, but it has its drawbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to learn to use it like you learn any other piece of equipment. But being able to confirm when I get here that my exact, same with the Valkyrie system, that those arrows, the actual broadhead I shot at that buck, I shot in that target like 6 times with that sight out to like 60 and made sure that particular arrow broadhead combo is good, and you just sharpen it up and put some wax on it and you're golden. It's just very reliable, and being able to set my pins when I get here is just nice.
Absolutely.
So,
And you can do multiple bow setups too, right? Or arrow setups,
like
whatever you want to say.
different weighted arrows, different release. You can set it all up.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I have lighted nocks. So I have a profile for when I use lighted nocks and a profile for when I don't. And then I have a hinge release versus my thumb, and I have profile set up for those. So I just, it shoots a slightly different spot depending on those variables.
Yeah, that's cool.
You just set up your sight. So that alone, let alone the range finding capability, forget that. Just the setup and ease of use.
Mm-hmm.
If you just had that, it's a pleasure. It took me like a couple of days of printing sight tapes and going out and confirming and check to set up.
Yeah.
It's a major chore. And if you go and add like a heavier 150 grain broadhead from your 100.
Yeah, then you got to restart.
And I can, in the Garmin, I can be set up in 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
impressive.
awesome. Yeah, I was surprised at how it sounds like a complicated sight, but when you're looking at it on the bow and stuff, you're like, this looks simple. Just push the button. I mean, it's pretty sweet.
It's like any tech though. You're weighing its pros and cons because I've had it freeze on me. Never like in a hunting situation. The newest versions I have never had that happen, but there were some older versions where, and I imagine it's like my iPhone, every now and then it freezes.
Yeah.
It's not very often. I mean, it's very rare, but when it does, you're screwed. And it's the same here. So, but that said, like the shot tonight, I was able to make, I mean, granted it was close, but a sharp angle, 16 yards straight down nearly.
Pile
and I have the exact like mark on the animal where I want it to go, and that's exactly where it goes. Not too high, not too low, not left, not right. It just, that is, and usually it's not left or right anyway, but up and down, you're guessing. It's not precise. So that was pretty cool.
I'm just trying to envision that deer just walking out so late in the game.
Dude, I was like, when that happened, I was like, just focus on execution. It's so easy to get in your own head.
Absolutely.
Like, I'll ask you what you guys do. You know, when that happens, you want it real bad. Let's face it. Like, I want Big Sexy. I've been suffering for days, right? I want this deer. And there he is. Like, what do you do so you don't, like, psych yourself out, or so you, like, execute in that moment?
I mean, for me, it's the same. It's the same thing I do when I'm shooting in the yard, doing reps. Like I go through my sequence. I make sure my sequence is. I try to make it the same. And there's variables that come in, branch that might be hanging out that I know I'm conscious of, or at times it's been wire fences or things like that. But if I can keep consistent with coming to full, getting my points, I try not to. I really try. You try not to focus on the bone. You try not to. Make it as routine as possible.
Yeah.
And there's still an edge to it. I mean, there's definitely still an edge to it, because it's not. I mean, your heart doesn't race when you're shooting a Glendale, right?
Right.
I mean,
and when you come to a place like this, when you're kind of supposed to focus on the antlers, you know, because you want to make sure that it's a nice. So like anytime I go somewhere, you know, I'm really like, okay, like I'm trying to really focus on the antlers just to make sure that they're either big enough or that, you know, whatever. So like tonight, when I saw that deer come in, I only saw the one side of his antlers through some thick stuff, and man, I was like,
got you going.
Oh boy, here he comes. So like at that moment, all these deer were coming out in a certain spot, and I was like, he's probably going to follow right along where they came. So I ranged that, and I just got right in my shooting position, whereas if he were to come right there, I'd just be ready to go. So I knew the range, I knew everything. So when he was a little ways away, my heart was going. But that's when I just, just take some breaths, just, okay, and then just kind of calm yourself down. But like what happened with you, I mean, it can happen so fast that you don't have time to really panic or anything. It's just...
Yeah. Owen?
I struggled early on with not like trusting my pins, like, to where you'd want to see where you hit. And now I don't necessarily have a routine. I just know that whenever I do release the arrow, is that I just release the arrow.
Follow through.
Follow through.
I'll find the deer. Just trust just trust what you've done. Like we all practice, we all shoot. Just trust that. The arrow will find its mark, pending any deflections or whatever, and then go find your deer. And that's kind of where I've just come down to, is just make sure it's just draw back and let it fly.
And if you're lucky enough to put yourself in those situations over and over and over again, so whether it's
you just get better at
elk, whiteys, mule deer.
It's tough to beat experience, but like Spealler, he's never done this. He's never been in this position. And it happened instantaneously. I mean, screaming across the flat, running full tilt, chasing a doe. Buck is going, stops for a split second in front of him. He's full draw, settles.
Boom.
And I mean, Keith was impressed with it. I mean, for a guy who has seen a lot of arrows get loosed, I mean, that's what Keith was like. I can't believe how pro he was about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Shout out to that. That 100%. Man, Keith.
Oh yeah, dude.
Keith gets it done, man. Keith's a workhorse. He's a workhorse.
There's still a drone and an oak right now.
Stuck in the tree.
Yeah, Keith's a man.
When that deer comes out, I heard Jordan B. Peterson he's like a scholar dude, and he was talking about how someone asked him, they're like, how do you maintain, like, how do you not crumble under pressure when you're being asked a question in front of hundreds or thousands of people? How do you not just
Bug.
Yeah. Just choke.
Have you guys
How
ever
do you not
listened to him?
choke?
Yeah.
That guy's incredible.
And he said, you know how I don't choke? When you choke, it's when you step outside yourself.
Yeah.
And now you're thinking about what you look like to other people.
Yeah. Well said.
And instead of being focused on the task at hand, if you're focused on the question they asked and really getting at the bottom of it and answering it sincerely, you're not thinking about how dumb you look while everyone's staring at you and you're stuttering.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, so stay in the moment. So when that deer comes out, I'm thinking, I used to be like, okay, hold it together. There's a deer here. Stay calm. I realized that was really negative, actually, self-talk. There's actually expresses some level of doubt, right? When it comes out, I'm like, hell yeah, he's here.
I'm killing.
Now you're dead.
Go time.
It's me. It's you. Come on, baby. Just come one more step. I got you. You're going down. It's that whole thing. And I'm like, all I need is, yep, you're doing it. Okay. As soon as you take one more step, bows back. It's like, it's attack mode versus and without doubt. Right. And staying in the moment, focused on the task. I don't worry about what if I miss? What if it doesn't work out? What if, what if this fails? I've worked so hard. None of that matters. And I'm also not celebrating a victory that hasn't happened yet, a success that hasn't occurred, which I think is another thing where people, it's automatic. They're like,
they think it's just going to,
I got this. It's already over before it's over. No, you haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
So staying focused on the task is kind of my,
So I tell a lot of people, because everybody, I guess a lot of people, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna shoot that deer tonight. And I'll be like, you're gonna shoot at it.
Yeah.
Just remember, you're gonna shoot at it. There's a lot that goes into that. So just remember, you're gonna shoot at it, and then, when you find it,
yeah.
I have massive superstitions about that too.
Yeah.
So do I.
About
I'm
after
with
the
you.
shot.
I'm way with you on that.
I hate until hands on, like.
Yeah, don't even.
Yeah,
say
when
it.
you guys, when I said there was a deer down, was it you, Owen? You're like, call me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I figured that you saw, like, deer down.
And that's the first question is, I'm like, no, I see it. He went down.
Yeah,
right
that's right. I was like, all right.
We can celebrate somewhat.
Yeah.
I mean, he might be a little forked horn, but I don't,
Yeah.
Let's run this back. real
Most
quick.
people, as soon as they shoot, big buck down.
Yeah, and I've had
As they
some
take off running 100 yards and you lose them, and then it's like,
experiences where I just got to jump the gun, and now, and Robert, the morning I shot that, he had texted me about something, and I didn't say boo about it. And
you didn't. You
I
didn't
think
say
we
anything
probably
to
had
me.
texted too. Yeah, No, I think the only person I finally told was my wife, just because, she knew why I was ADD for a few weeks about it, and then and the thing I did is that it took some time to find that deer, so
Yeah.
Right.
you just don't want to jinx it. There's just so much to it.
It's interesting how everybody's a little different there, but I'm with you. Like, it's like when a new couple, right? Married couple, wife gets pregnant and you're like, we're having a baby. But things don't go so well sometimes the first trimester and you lose the baby, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I know those people that are, hey, we're not going to talk about this until I'm showing.
Until it's like
it's
7 months.
There's so much to it.
Yeah.
So much that can go wrong.
Same thing.
I'm not as superstitious. I'm just sort of like, let's throw it out there and just let it lay, I got one and just eat humble pie later, Just like, he got away.
Yeah.
So tell me about this property because it's special. You guys have now Latitude, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Latitude Whitetails?
Latitude's Whitetail Company. Ohio Whitetail Company.
Latitude's Ohio Whitetail Company.
Yeah, parent company is Latitude, so we kept the branding throughout.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guide out west.
Yep, I've been out west in the outfitting business for a little over 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't even look old enough to like
right?
Pretty, you and I are the old guys here.
How old are you? You look
42.
You do not look 42.
I would agree.
Well, that's good.
Right? I would guess you at like 36.
All right. I'll take it.
Take it.
Don't you
If
think?
I shave this, though, I live in a little small community back home, and we go to the same great little local grocery store, and about once or twice a year I shave this off. And the same little old lady who checks me out like 9 out of 10 times, like, doesn't even acknowledge me. I could rob banks. I could do anything. Take this thing off and like I look 12.
It's a good thing.
That's very cool. So you guys have got this property and it's family owned.
Mm-hmm. It is. So part of my life, I grew up in this part of the world, Canton, just a little north of here. And pretty close family friend of mine that I grew up with here. So we started it, almost 3 years ago. This is like 5 generations deep with that family. And mentioned it earlier. It's a special place. They've taken incredible care of it.
Like early 1800s.
Yep. And in all honesty, that was the luck in it, right? A lot of folks who pursue these projects just aren't handed that, right?
Yeah.
Because in order to have good deer, good elk, or whatever, you got to take care of the ground. You got to get the ground there. You got to get the real estate there.
So much of it is always developed, or maybe it's public land that you're guiding on.
Yep.
That everyone else you're competing with.
Yep.
You can't manage it the same way.
Yep. So one of those big check marks for us was done. It was done. So this one in particular, Ben, who's like I said, close personal friend and longtime family friend, came to us because he's taking over management for the family and kind of looking down the future. They've done an incredible job in preserving and conserving what is already here, but like all things, it changes.
And what exactly is it?
So this is it's Beaver Kettle Farms. Is the property itself. We sit on we're in the eastern, the Pennsylvania border. In fact, some of the ground falls to the Pennsylvania line, Columbiana County. Ben's family originally got here generations ago, like we were talking about at dinner. Potters, right?
Yeah.
Irish potters.
Like pottery.
Like pottery. And great grandfather kind of was the visionary, saw how special the place was, and did everything he could to take care of it. Yeah, right. Early 1900s. So as the family became more successful in the region, they continued to add on, and the property grew over time. Two major drainages that fall right through the center of the farm. We have we're on a wild and scenic river here in Ohio, which is pretty special.
That morning that I sat on the river over there was incredible.
Yeah.
Just
pretty
crazy.
Yeah.
It's the quintessential whitetail woods.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right? Like
red
the sort of
and
stuff
white
you
oak and
see in a Cabela's catalog, like the old
That's
school
exactly
covers,
it.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it here. So
with giant, heavy deer.
oh.
Yeah. It's good. Okay, continue.
No. I mean, that's really it. So, I mean, that's really kind of the story. So I got a phone call. I'll never forget it. I was upstairs in the house, and we check in with each other every now and again, and kind of tells me what's going on. And, hey, I'm kind of thinking about trying to get the family to move in a different direction as they're looking at the property and looking at the farm and
how to use the land. And asked if there would be an interest. And the interest coming from Ben knows exactly my background and what I've been doing for a number of years, and thought it was in line with the family's goals. Mm-hmm. I certainly agree with it. That's for sure. And I have wanted to somehow come back to the Midwest to do everything. I love where I live. I love Montana. Mm-hmm. I love all the things that we get to do out there, chasing trout and mule deer and elk. But whitetails are certainly, I got a special place in my heart for them. So of course, what are you kidding me? I'm in. I'm all in. But I'm 2,000 miles away. Yeah, right.
So that's where Owen kind of came into play for me. There's no way I could be no way I could be done without him. That's for sure.
And Owen, you live right here.
Yeah, Cleveland, west of Cleveland.
Yeah,
which is about an hour and 40 minutes from here. Not far, all highway.
And you guys have known each other for how many years?
2002.
Yeah, 2002.
Long time.
Mm-hmm. Long time.
And
a lot
Owen,
of fishing trips and a lot of guiding, and yeah.
And Owen, you did a lot of guiding out west, basically, with Mr. Gary.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I started in Wyoming. I was telling Keith the other night that somewhat like a doctor does, I stayed in school for about 7 to 10 years, but I would take every fall off, and I started in southern Wyoming, started in Pinedale, then guided in Saratoga, out of Saratoga, Wyoming, and then made my way back to try to finish school and would guide out of Missoula and finish my collegiate career with a Parks and Rec degree.
Sweet.
Yeah. Recreation management. And I told Ben when we first had it, I said, thanks. Now I can actually tell people I use my major.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you get the call.
So I get the call.
And you've made it happen.
Made it happen, right? Like a lot of logistics to figure out for sure. How do we, truly, how do we do it?
And that's one thing I want to get into just briefly is the past 2 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What has been your strategy because a lot of guys might get their hands on this and then book like 30 guys to come down here.
Yeah. And I will say it's not.
Go to a trade show, be like, show a few photos,
and let's just
come kill a bunch of deer.
And I will say it's only been a year and a few months because we got the keys in September, late August, September 2017. Okay. So we only had like one full season of us hunting it last year, and like we said, just a limited number of people this year.
Yeah, so all that, all the conversation that ensued with Ben and the family was all kind of preliminary. Mm-hmm. When there was a commitment to do it, it's only
until we actually started getting
doing
on
it, started actively,
out.
Participating in the management of it. So that's really the goal because we knew we had something unique, even for the Midwest, but there was like any other piece of property, a lot of self-discovery. And I think in the world of outfitting, especially private land stuff, I think that grab for the dollar, I think a lot of times sits more on top than it does quality over quantity. Let's face it, outfitting is kind of in a lot of regards, it's kind of going away. We talked about like the farming and ranching communities, right? There's a lot of great outfitting families, and that the generations under are not doing it. Yeah. So for this one, and we've done it with the rest of our business, can't push it because people I think are willing to participate if it's better.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that you need to make it better, right? Like we talked about the food, right? Like, I mean, all those things, they're the controlling factors and the uncontrolling factors.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, the accommodations, the food, because when someone comes like from out west out here and they want to do some kind of guided thing like this, where you got whitetail like this.
Right.
Well, you're going to have a certain, they're going to have a certain set of expectations, and you can deliver those or not.
Right.
And I think that's one of those things where, you get a lot of people who where you don't manage those expectations.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think if a lot of people, when they go to an outfitter, they think it's going to be 100% like, oh,
Success.
I'm going to an outfitter, I'm going to shoot something.
Yep.
And those are the people that aren't as experienced with hunting. I mean, that's just, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's so hard to do.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. I mean, I think you're exactly right. And so after a year and a half of figuring,
peeling back some layers.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if a guy wants to go shoot a whitetail from a tree stand, there's like a bunch of places in Montana, where you're from, where a guy can go out and shoot a nice little whitetail.
Yeah.
And he could see $10 a day.
Yeah.
And then shoot a good little whitetail. But shooting something like this, that's getting up in these kind of age classes, especially if these outfits are, I mean, that's not as common, I would say. And then kind of the uniqueness of what you got here. If I want to go and shoot something really gnarly and cool and unique, I don't feel like I have a lot of as many choices as I do. You can go out and shoot a whitetail a lot of places, but shooting whitetail back east like this with deer like this, I think it's a little harder because a lot of the land, people will buy a lease. They'll get access through a lease, and then they can manage it with some friends and a group of friends, and it usually passes from group to group to group, or it's a real money's game, right? So I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting that the whole outfitting thing is just an interesting game to play.
Got to be smart about it. You got to be
But
really
you guys
smart about it.
have delayed that gratification. You've postponed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And now
and we're still going to post. I mean, to a certain effect, we're still. This operation, you got to be on board with the people who you do it with. Owen and I certainly. There's a component of the family, right? We got to be on board with that, and they with us. This is never going to be. We're not going to run 60 hunters through this thing ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I mean,
That'd be
But
crazy.
like when you know that there is a mature deer like this, right?
Yeah.
And you're looking for 5.5 or older deer, your success rates are going to go down.
Yep.
They're going to go down because you can't just walk out and kill a buck like this.
Yeah.
Even if you know where it's at and you know it's there and you have photos of it every day, as we've determined this week.
Yeah.
Killing a deer that's this old and wise is a totally different ball game.
Yep.
But there are guys who that's what they want, and they're willing to come down here and then go home with nothing.
Minus Chris, right? Everybody who's been able to enjoy the farm thus far kind of falls in that bracket. I mean, I'd rather, if I was going to pay for it, I'd rather know the opportunity was there
and not get something.
But
that's how I approach this.
Right, you said it earlier. I mean,
It's like when I come here knowing that these deer are out here,
Yeah.
seeing them move throughout the day,
Yeah.
knowing that he was just on stand over here and he'll probably be over there, of that caliber, like we all hunted our butts off and didn't see him.
Yep.
So that is but I would rather come here and try to kill the the unicorn.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's how I'm wired. Like, I'd rather come here and try and do that than go someplace where I can just shoot deer.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But I don't know. I'm just curious, like, do you think, like, how many guys are wired that way? How many guys want to do that?
I think there's a number of guys that way. I think in the hunting community, I think it's a smaller percentage. Mm-hmm. But as Owen and I have talked about this and developing this program, we want that.
Yeah.
We want that bracket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because your success rates, like I said, they're not going to be as high. You're going to get better. You're going to get better at figuring out where they are. You're going to learn the land so you can say, okay, like for example, where I killed this buck tonight, where I killed Big Sexy. You know that stand works. Mm-hmm. You know when it works, when it doesn't work, right? Mm-hmm. But you're going to have to, so you're going to learn that saddle even more over time, Middle Earth, right? And you'll have better ways of approaching it, better stand locations and so on. But at the end of the day, you're still trying to kill a really old deer, and all of them, as we established earlier, are quite different and behave differently and go different routes. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a daunting challenge each time.
So when we kind of began this project, Owen and I kind of talked about kind of looking at that in a different light, and how do you get those guys? Mm-hmm. How do you get us, right, folks that were here? How do you capture that? And being around the hunting industry for a number of years and seeing different sides of it. I mean, mine's from the outfitting world. We kind of approach this at like, there is that, it's there. Those groups are there. And as we've gotten deeper in the hunting industry, we've found that in certain groups, companies, that are also looking for that.
Right.
Different side of the hunting industry, but want that shot.
Right. Because I just got back from Canada. I was there with Green Tree and Barklow and the sick guy, some guy, Jonathan Hart. Mm-hmm. We went down there, and it was the most expensive hunt I've ever been on. Mm-hmm. Right. And Gritty helped pay for some of that. I had some support from Mountain Ops. Mm-hmm. But mostly it came out of my own pocket. Mm-hmm. And it was a big, and I don't know if I'll ever like when that will happen again. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it was quite a chunk to break off and do that, and doing what I do right now as my job and stuff. It makes sense. I don't know that in the past, unless I'm more independently wealthy than I have been my whole life, it'd be hard for me to do that kind of hunt.
Yeah.
But I go into it knowing full well that I could come home with nothing. That you pay for a hunt, but not for an animal.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And like Janice was saying, Jeff, like there are people who they expect 100% that when they go out, that they've purchased the animal.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you weed out those type of people?
And there's nothing, I don't see anything wrong with that, but there's hunts out there for those folks. This wouldn't be it.
Right.
Not
I mean, I've hunted an outfitter for the past 5 years now, and I've seen like one guy who on his last night, he shot a fawn, just a doe fawn. And he didn't want the meat or anything. He said, you guys can have it. I just had to shoot something because I came here. I paid to hunt and shoot something. It's like, how do you how do you know someone is like that before you even let them come hunt your place? You know what I mean? It's like,
and like I said, there are hunts, if you want to just come out and there's like a 99% success rate, go there. Yeah. If what you really want to do is come home with just something, that experience, and I don't have anything wrong. I don't see anything wrong with that. But this isn't the type of place you're running here that you're working on.
No, and we're going to be specific. Yeah, the audience that we'd like to draw here, we're going to be really specific.
Yeah,
kind of like Owen poking you. You know, I mean, in all honesty, for sure. And I think there's also it's connectivity. right? I mean,
Well, that's the thing about camps like this that I really enjoy. And this is one of the reasons I like whitetail hunting, is because you leave in the morning, and if you want to, you come out in the afternoon
If you're smart.
and you hang out, and then you go back in the evening, right? But there's camaraderie and brotherhood that happens, and then with we go into town and have dinner each night. It gets dark early, have dinner, hang out, hit the sack, go out again. That sort of thing doesn't always on a mule deer hunt or an elk hunt or things like that. You don't have that same time spent together. You know, it's not as leisurely or casual. And that's something special about whitetail camps. Like one of my favorite hunts I've done for whitetail is at Sloan's place in Texas. And it's mostly because Sloan's family cabin is just cool, and we hang out and talk crap all day.
Guy's mustache is amazing.
Come back in the afternoon.
My gosh.
It's so creeper, isn't it? Like, dude.
He wears it well.
Yeah, he does. He does. Only Sloan. So this property, though, how much of it do you think you guys have kind of tapped into that you actually have studied out of the 5,000 acres?
Oh man,
There's a lot more to go.
So you could have a few Goliaths out there, just giant deer that you don't even know are there.
I don't know about.
Yeah.
Just broke it off in chunks, tried to learn, be a lot, knowledgeable about fewer places than kind of knowledgeable about more, like you said, find a few deer, go track them down.
I saw that one, well, you guys have shown me a few photos of deer, and I was asking you on that one set why you didn't run cameras over there, because there's a big deer. I wanted to see a picture of it, and you're like, well, we already know that's a spot. And so we can't afford to use cameras over there. We're just going to stick people over there because we don't need a camera
over there and say, good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first night or first day that I hunted, there was deer all over, and I was like, dude, you guys got a camera here? It's like, no. But we just know there's deer there.
You saw, you were just covered all day.
Yeah, had a lot of action.
Yes.
So
that's what was nice about this week too, though, having eyes in the woods of guys that knew what they were looking at, and being able to report back.
Well, I'm super anxious to see, because with genetics like this, dude,
it's a monster. I
mean, these, they're so like character and unique, Big Sexy, you were saying that, you expected his main beam to be.
We thought he would have four, we thought he's an 8, or no, he's a 10, but he's a 10 from
the brows,
split brows, which he didn't have last year. We thought he'd grow his force this year into.
What's so cool is he put on brows instead of force.
Yeah, he lost. Brows. He started. He had like little inchers last year, and then he lost those, and so we thought he regressed, but he, in inches wise, he's probably the same as he was last year. He's just different. Mm-hmm.
It's weird. Like, why wouldn't he
just explode
this new set and not grow tines, like split brows? That's what's so cool. Deer genetics are wild.
It's wild. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the neat thing too, is that, like I said, the family here has taken immense care of the property, but now we have a chance we are going to tend to the deer and to be able to feed them a little better, and all that is pretty unique. And with the genetics, like you said, it could, who knows?
You guys see other deer in this, outside of this area, out here in the west or east, that are like this? Do you see many?
Yeah, I'm not many. I'm just probably because I'm not paying attention enough, but I'm sure. You get to pockets. There's great whitetail woods, scattered throughout. A lot have notoriety. A lot have had the notoriety for years and years. But to where we are and what we found, it's a unique. It's a unique,
especially in this short period of time.
Short period of time. Yeah. Which is just fabulous, right? Like we got a lot of excitement for.
It's like the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jeff, you've hunted a number of places for whitetail.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up hunting in Michigan, obviously. I've hunted in Wisconsin quite a bit. I've hunted a little bit in Illinois, and now Ohio. So this whole region is starting to cover.
It's a good region.
Yeah.
Michigan's not such a good region.
No.
They nuke them up there.
The closer you get to Ohio, the better it gets.
Mm-hmm.
But where I'm at, it's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of public land, a lot of deer getting shot.
What was the most? I mean, what did you like about this place the most?
Honestly, just the camaraderie and the people. I mean, every place that I go to, like every outfitter, I always meet new people, and it's doing stuff like this and just hearing guys' stories, hearing about their families and stuff like that. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest part about doing these type of hunts that you remember the most. And then when someone out of the group does shoot a nice deer, I mean, it's like the cherry on top.
Yeah.
It's a big cherry.
I liked it. Jeff was the first one on scene.
Yeah.
I was like, I need someone else to look at this deer and make sure.
I was like, man, this thing could either be really small or it could be huge.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Good one.
I told you I'm no good at.
Yeah.
I'm
I saw
no
it and I
good.
was like, that's a shooter. Yeah.
I had just walked up on it. Like on the hoof as it's walking, I knew he had a big body, but
He's got a big body.
yeah. So
Big body. It was awesome.
such big deer.
Big deer. A lot of big deer, a lot of big
What
animal.
right now? What's your favorite? Like the buck that gets you the most excited, Robert?
I'm with you on the nasty, like Wilson's nasty, like in fact, all of the deer harvested and yours can fall into that with like those little devil cheater tines, right? Like every one of them, my buck from last year had like a 7-inch drop on it.
That's awesome.
Those
O's from last year was like his mass measurements carried all the way out like that were 4 inches all down the whole beam.
I love that, by the way.
Big.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, obviously OG, but I would completely rather try and hunt the off.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take what I get for sure.
Right, yeah.
No doubt about it. But
matures mature.
I mean, that to me, like,
Yeah.
split after split after split after split. I mean,
So, which buck right now on the property is the one that like gets your juices flowing?
well, when you right now El Paso,
Yeah.
I got a space in my heart for El Paso. You see his brow tines
Yeah.
that come.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got brows that are, I don't know, 10 inches.
Yeah.
Towers. I mean, towers.
They split.
I mean,
He's a freak.
I mean,
nasty
he
buck.
might. Yeah. OG's buddy from Summertime, which we haven't seen in a while. Nah.
Yeah, that El Paso, I think he's a great deer now, but I think he's only 4.5. So, I mean, he could be like really big next year.
Yeah.
Really big. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, what about you?
I mean, I just
love deer.
Yeah.
I just love bucks. Like, that's my answer.
Is it El Paso as well?
I don't know.
Oh, for here? No, I would go, like that, or just I don't know about him yet.
It's one you haven't seen?
Yeah.
It's the Goliath that's out there that just hasn't
The
been.
next one that I want to go find and go pattern.
El Paso's not good enough for you, huh?
It's not that he's not good enough. I want you guys. I want the person that comes this fall to shoot. I'm done. I've chalked it up to I had to learn the property and shoot some deer to show some people, and I'm done.
Nice.
Yep.
we get to share it.
Yep.
It's pretty sweet.
Jeff, what about you?
Dude, that's like, I just love bucks.
You were gonna shoot a one-horned one tonight. Like, no, you.
No, he was broke off. I didn't.
He
think
was
about
handsome.
It.
He was.
Yeah,
That'd
But
be a good one.
no, when you get to go out of Michigan and I kind of got spoiled over in Wisconsin hunting over there, because now I go back to Michigan and I'm like, dang, I want to shoot bucks like I do.
yeah.
But the mentality is just different in Michigan. So I feel like when I go back to Michigan, my mentality changes. Like I get pumped to shoot our biggest buck on camera, even though our biggest buck on camera is a small buck over. You know what I mean? It's just a different mentality when you change states. So, but yeah, I just like hunting them, man.
Yeah. Casey, which buck is your favorite you saw this week?
The one in the back of the side-by-side.
Yeah, like which one got you the most excited?
Which spike got you the most excited?
No, I meant on camera. Like,
Oh, okay. El Paso. Yeah.
Yeah, El Paso.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I tried to kill him tonight, but luckily he didn't come in because I was pretty thirsty.
Casey was dying tonight.
I was that guy that was going to shoot the fawn, but I would have eaten the fawn. No, so I hunted Big Sexy for 2 days, basically. You and I hunted him.
Yeah.
But as soon as he moved and we saw, and I got on Onyx and saw where he had hit, I knew it was game over for me. So that's why I was like, bounce.
He'd already gone his loop.
No, he was in the middle of his loop, and I knew he was on his way to you. He'd passed right by me, probably 100 to 200 yards away.
Right.
That I just didn't see him. Just didn't come through my little section that I needed into.
The figure eight, baby.
It's so
The figure
funny,
eight,
like, that 4-year-old or 4.5-year-old buck that was chasing that doe.
Yeah.
I mean, man, I almost shot that
Right
buck.
there. Yeah, he's right there.
It's like he's so close to being, but we talked about this earlier. He just didn't have that wow factor that I'm
right
looking
away.
for. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no question.
Yep. He was close, so close
Yeah.
that I really wanted to shoot him.
Yeah.
But I was like,
He did good.
So
You can't
Thanks,
shoot those
Gritty.
ones.
Yeah.
You're
Thanks.
going to shoot the big one.
thank you.
Next
Thank-
year.
Thank you.
My.
Next year.
All right.
Yep.
Let's wrap this up. We all got to go to bed.
Yeah.
Got some
Airplanes.
big plans.
Yeah.
Travel tomorrow.
Wrap this season up. here,
Bottom of the
Kevin.
ninth.
Way
Dude, this is like
bottom of the ninth.
This is like a Cleveland's Browns victory,
This is
right?
the unicorn,
it's like-
Hitchens. It's the unicorn.
It's the unicorn right here.
That's
Right here.
right.
You got
I love it. Love every bit of it.
I can't thank you guys enough, dude. Guys, it's been a pleasure to be here. Just to see the country, the brotherhood, and the camaraderie here. Inviting Spealler down to shoot his first deer.
It's awesome.
Just
It's great
incredible.
to have Jeff too.
Yes,
Man.
He's all right.
Yeah.
he's a stud.
Yeah.
I want his bike.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can people get a hold of? And of course, we have
We got
Casey
got-
Harberton,
Right. I
Mr.
mean,
the ops.
The ops.
it was
Yep.
an unbelievable camp.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of what everybody does, and
It was fun.
it was
Oh,
badass,
yeah.
man. This was.
There's some
good, yeah.
Spealler. You got Mr. NFL here.
Yeah.
Like you got some.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you got like. Yeah. I was gonna say like entrepreneur, like defy the odds.
Yeah.
Mountain ops. Yeah, we have some risk takers.
Yeah,
in here.
maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Just rolling the dice.
Got him.
Yep.
Got to take those chances.
Absolutely.
So, before we wrap up, how can people get a hold of you? Let's say someone wants to hunt here next year.
Invite only. No.
Okay, where can they send some inquiries?
Robert or Owen at OhioWhitetailCompany.com. Or
Owen at OhioWhitetailCompany.com.
Yep.
Or Robert.
at
Robert.
Ohio Whitetail Company.
Then we do have a site up, we don't have any pricing or anything up, but just kind of some pictures, some chatter about, what the farm's about, but just OhioWhitetailCompany.com.
Right on.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Try to keep it clean, simple.
Okay. And people can follow you on Instagram.
For sure.
Yeah.
You got that rocking.
Yeah.
And they can follow both.
Yeah,
Latitudes. Tell me, tell folks what it is. It's at
Latitudes Outfitting Co.
all one word.
Yep. All one
Isn't
word.
there an underscore in there?
In the Ohio one, I believe.
Yeah,
Ohio has. They make you put the underscore in Ohio.
Okay, so
Latitudes Outfitting. Yeah, Co.
okay, Latitudes
And-
Outfitting Co.
Yep.
is
That's,
and then that's the parent company. And then you
Yep.
got Latitudes,
Ohio Whitetail.
and there's a underscore.
Underscore.
Underscores between each, I believe.
Yeah.
they make you space it out for
Yeah.
some reason. Casey
Yeah.
gave me my whole social media lesson about a night ago.
Seminar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
similar.
Mind blowing.
Those mountain ops guys are pretty good at that stuff. You
They
know?
are
a little bit.
Got
good at it.
millennial.
See them around.
Those freaking millennials.
All right. Let's wrap it up. Thanks for listening, folks, to the Gritty Podcast. And as always,
Congrats to you, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting in the
Sure.
time.
Well done.
thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Stay gritty, folks. Despite our ever-changing, ever-indignant world with its growing ignorance of and indifference to the ways of the wild, I remain a predator, pitying those who revel in artificiality and synthetic success while regarding me and my kind as relics of a time and place no longer valued or understood. I stalk a real world of dark wood and tall grass stirred by a restless wind blowing across sunlit water and beneath star-strewn sky. And on those occasions when I choose to kill, to claim some small part of nature's bounty for my own, I do so by choice, quickly, with the learned efficiency of a skilled hunter. Further, in my heart and mind, I know the truth and make no apologies for my actions or my place in time. Others around me may opt to eat only plants, nuts, and fruits. Still others may employ faceless strangers to procure their meats, their leather, their feathers, and all those niceties and necessities of life. Such is their right, of course, and I wish them well. All I ask in return is no one begrudge me, and all of us who may answer the primordial stirrings within our hunter souls, my right to do some of these things myself. What you just heard is a quote from M.R. James. We truly live in a world that is largely ignorant and indifferent to the ways of the wild. And although some regard us as relics of a time and place no longer valued or understood, we have the opportunity to change the way these people view the hunter and the hunt. We can share our experiences and nature's bounty with those who employ these faceless strangers. And by so doing, we make a difference, not just for ourselves, but for the wild animals in the wild places we care so deeply about. Never stop sharing your passion for hunting and the outdoors. Our wild animals and our wild places depend on it.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowman.
Gritty Bowman.